Thank you for attending today's CBA webinar, What is the CBA and what are its strategies for the cord blood community? This webinar is supported by the Cord Blood Association and will consist of a 45-minute lecture followed by a question and answer session. To prevent technical difficulties, this webinar is delivered via computer audio only. If you have questions during the presentation, you may type them into the Q&A menu on the right side of your screen. You may ask questions at any time, but all will be answered after the lecture. This webinar is being recorded for our colleagues who are unable to attend today. Today's presenters are Dr. Joanne Kurtzberg, President of the Cord Blood Association, Geoffrey Crouse, Vice President of the Cord Blood Association, and Dr. Gesine Koegler, Chair of Quality Standards Committee for the Cord Blood Association.
Hi. This is Joanne Kurtzberg, and as President of the Cord Blood Association, I'm delighted to welcome you all to this webinar. As you've heard over the next 45 minutes or so, I, alongside my colleagues Jeff and Gesine, will introduce you to the CBA. We're excited to tell you about the new organization, how it came to be, and what our initial priorities will be for the coming year. So first I'll start with what is the CBA. CBA stands for Cord Blood Association, and it's an international nonprofit organization that promotes the banking and use of umbilical cord blood and related tissues for disease treatment and regenerative therapy. Our mission statement is to promote the work of the cord blood community to save lives and change medicine. Our members are cord blood banks, including public banks, family banks, and hybrid banks, individuals in and served by the cord blood community, and very importantly, our industry partners. We appointed a board of directors, which includes 13 members with tripartite membership. There are 4 directors representing public banks, 4 directors representing private and hybrid banks, and 5 directors at large representing the banking community. And these include research investigators, transplant clinicians, patients, parents, obstetricians, pediatricians, nurses, midwives, vendors, health policy experts, and regulatory officials. Because cord blood is an emerging industry that really touches a lot of different types of scientists and organizations. Our board of directors is listed on this slide. Briefly, Sue Armitage from the MD Anderson Cord Blood Bank, although Sue just retired, going to be representing us from Great Britain. David Blackett from PerkinElmer, Haywood Brown from Duke University, Jeff Crouse, who's on the call, Colleen Delaney from the Fred Hutch, Art Flatow, a patient advocate, Ken Gasian from StemSite, Gesine, who's on the call, myself, Richard Lockey from Inception Biosciences, A.B. Matthew from BioLife, Beth Shahs from the New York Blood Center, and Mahendra Rao, who's a consultant for the New York Stem Cell Foundation. So you can see we have a varied group of individuals representing different components of what we believe to represent the cord blood community. We have started to organize program committees, and you can see that right now we have 5 forming and active committees. This includes governmental affairs run by Jeff Crouse, market expansion led by A.B. Matthew, public education led by Art Flatow, quality standards led by Gesine, and scientific affairs led by Colleen Delaney. We also know that this type of organization needs to grow, and that there are many other partners in the cell therapy and regenerative medicine community that we will collaborate with in order to make all of us stronger as we move the field of cord blood banking, tissue transplantation, and regenerative medicine forward. And we plan to establish effective collaborations with other cell therapy organizations. At last year, meaning 2014, open forum at the International Cord Blood Symposium, 150 people attended, and we asked them a series of questions about whether or not it made sense to create a cord blood association. And to summarize conclusions that were reached at that session, the majority said yes, we should have an association, that it should be international, it should be an independent organization, and that membership should be for individuals and banks. Last year we asked some key questions to better understand what the priorities of banking and cord blood focused community would be. And you can see on this slide that there were several top issues, including quality standards, government relations, market expansion, manufacturing costs, standardization of processes, and research and development. And that really informed our policies about which committees we organized first to address these priorities of the community. Asking the question another way, we asked what should be the highest priority for the association, and you can see that, again, market expansion, increasing demand for cord blood products, increasing quality standards and accreditation, representing industry interests to legislators and regulators, and promoting public donor awareness and education, and academic research and development, again, overlaps with the top priorities in the previous question. So we embarked on a journey that led to the formation of the association, and I'll just summarize the high points in the next couple of slides. In June of 2014, we had the open forum I just summarized. In July, an appointed organizing committee began weekly meetings that continued through the whole summer. In August, we published a plan for public comment. In September, those public comments were reviewed and the plan was finalized. On September 16, 2014, the association was incorporated. In October, bylaws were drafted. In November, the board of directors were installed. And in December, we put in an application for tax exemption as a 501c6 trade association with a 501c3 subsidiary foundation. In 2015, we continued our work, and in February, the board of directors conducted a strategic planning retreat in person, and officers were elected. In March, we agreed to co-sponsor the 13th International Cord Blood Symposium, which occurred last June, and a pre-conference workshop at the SCT annual meeting. In April, we retained Sidley Austin as lobbyists for legislative and regulatory representation. In May, we drafted a strategic plan and also launched our website. In May, we also sponsored and coordinated the pre-conference day at ISCT, which we received very positive feedback from. In May, we represented ourselves by attending a meeting with the licensed banks with the FDA, with the members of CBER. In June, we had our official launch at the International Cord Blood Symposium, our second board of directors in-person meeting, and a public session at that meeting, which was well attended. We appointed our committee chairs, and in July, recruited committee members, and that's still ongoing today. Since June and really through now and going forward, we are focused on member recruitment. We really need the community to step up and join the association to make us strong and to make us be able to fulfill our mission. In the meantime, we had another meeting with Peter Marks at the FDA, and in July, August, and even September, we're concentrating on the reauthorization of the C.W. Bill Young Act and a program, and I'll summarize that in another slide, but we've been attending congressional briefings, making legislative visits, and meeting with various committees in Congress that will affect the legislation. We also appointed additional committee members, and the educational committee started meeting. We were represented by me at the Advisory Council for Blood Stem Cell Transplantation meeting on September 11th, and now we're doing this FACT webinar. We have other activities planned for the future. In November, there'll be a second webinar focusing on the science of cord blood transplantation and regenerative medicine. And we're going to be a sponsor of the World Stem Cell Summit meeting in December. I'd like to give you a legislative update. As I mentioned, this is a year to reauthorize the Stem Cell Act of 2006. This act funds the CW Billion Cell Transplantation Program, which includes the National Marrow Donor Program, the CIBMTR, and the National Cord Blood Inventory. It's been reauthorized once in 2010 and is now up again for reauthorization in 2015. The bill was introduced into and passed the House of Representatives last month, and it's now under consideration in the Senate. And we hope that it will be passed in the Senate within the next month or two of this year. You know through the U.S. FDA that there are 5 licensed banks to date and a few others applying for licensure, and we hope to continue meetings with the FDA to optimize the licensure regulations over the next year, and also to start to consider what it might look like if private and hybrid family banks were regulated. And we believe that's important because when autologous and related tissues and cord blood are used for regenerative medicine therapies, they need to be qualified in order to be used by the therapists and manufacturers who will be making products and administering these therapies. After the Advisory Council meeting in September, there was a plan made to consider new models to increase cord blood collections for public banks, which will be presented to HRSA, and we will be represented on that committee. So I am now going to turn the podium over to my colleague, Geoffrey Crouse from CBR, and he is going to take you through some other highlights of the association.
Thank you, Dr. Kurtzberg, and good morning, everyone. As Joanne mentioned, during the International Cord Blood Symposium, we polled the audience to get a better understanding of the community's priorities and areas of focus. As a result, the Cord Blood Association focused in on 5 key areas that we believe will benefit and influence the cord blood industry overall. The first one is quality products and services. In addition to an evolving regulatory landscape, we believe that the industry needs to step forward and work together across public and private banks and industry partners to establish quality standards and services and look at those accreditation standards and put forward opportunities for the industry to lead the way. So you see here on the right that one of our board members, A.B. Matthews from BioLife, has quoted that we really need to work actively together on these accreditations, and we need to work actively together to establish international standards. So Gesine will be speaking later about quality products and standards and providing some more detail there, but we see that as a key priority going forward. Secondly, we focused on advocacy. It is clear that the cord blood industry, whether family banking or public donation, whether U.S. or international, needs substantial support on the public policy front, the legislative front, and overall community awareness, including frontline healthcare providers. So it is our mission to be the voice of the cord blood industry, raising awareness and advocacy, and working across multiple associations and building partnerships on a global scale so that we can drive and build awareness. With regards to market expansion, we are interested in enhanced consumer access to banking services and cellular therapies. We believe that the primary way to do this is both public education and frontline provider education. So when we think about our education programs, we do have a committee focused, as Joanne mentioned, on public education, where we, again, want to work across the industry to provide public awareness campaigns, both in the U.S. and internationally. And we also want to ensure that our messages are consistent as an industry and that both leadership from family banks, public banks, and regulators are supportive of the messaging that we're delivering into the market to drive that awareness and build the industry as a whole. As I've said many times before, it amazes me that 20 years into the establishment of cord blood banking and cord blood transplantation, that the majority of people are completely unaware of the value of cord blood stem cells and unaware of their options to bank and store those for others' benefits. So we see this as a rallying cry and hope that we can get the entire industry to work together around market expansion and education. Finally, research and development. It is clear that both from a transplant perspective, whether it's double cord or expansion or honing or other technologies, and from a regenerative medicine application point of view, that the future is bright and there are all kinds of amazing opportunities coming forward as an industry if we work together to drive robust research and development programs, again, on a global scale. So in our next webinar, we will talk more about those opportunities and where the industry can go and how the Cord Blood Association can help support those and how your membership can help support those. So these are the 5 areas that the Cord Blood Association has identified as our key focus areas in our 2016 planning priorities. With that, I'd like to turn it over to Gesine to talk more about the quality standard.
Yes, thank you, Geoffrey. And I would love, and I'm delighted to share the view of the CBA on the quality for standardization of cord blood and tissue. I think we feel, or we all feel, that we achieved a lot to define standards for hematopoietic blood-forming cells from cord blood. Here we have an excellent collaboration with FACT and NetCord in order to define standards both for autologous cord blood banking and also for allogenic cord blood banking. However, when we would like to move the cord blood field forward to regenerative medicine, we should invest into scientific development. And as summarized on this slide here, there are very interesting subpopulations in cord blood who could be very helpful in the treatment of patients. First of all, in cord blood, we have so-called stroma cells. We have more immature cells, which are adherent. We have a very strong population of endothelial cells. And in addition to the cell populations from cord blood, we have cells derived from the cord tissue. However, so far, there is really no standardization available in this field. And I think when we want to move into the next phase of regenerative medicine, we should really try to standardize them. The cord blood subpopulations from fresh cord blood are easy and available. From cryopreserved, it's much more difficult. However, according to all criteria, they can be generated and expanded or isolated according to GMP grade criteria. However, we should define them in our standard committee. There were already many data out to demonstrate beneficial effects in vitro as well as in vivo, as improved regeneration capacity. However, we need very solid preclinical scientific data. As better we are, also in the collaboration with the industries, as better will be the phase 2 or 3 studies. All cord blood subpopulation, what they share is a unique anti-apoptotic activity, for instance for neuronal degenerative disorders. They show a very high damage repair response capability, and as a very modern technology, they are an excellent source for reprogramming and transdifferentiation. But we need, I cannot get the next slide, sorry. Yes, we need excellent preclinical studies. We need good science. We need an excellent intellectual property for companies and scientific evidence in order to survive in the field of regenerative medicine, because there are also other products out from other regenerative tissues. And we should develop together with companies or together with academic institutions a GMP process and the development, which is allowing us studies. We need a very good GMP process and a qualification and an approval by authorities, as for instance an IND approval. And the best way to approach the development for a cord blood will be speed to the market and great operational efficiency, and of course also the reduction of risk, both operational, financial, and for the patient. And when we are good, and this is both for allogenic off-the-shelf products or patient-specific products as autologous or matched allogenic therapies, when we are good, we can really go into solid clinical trials, and there could be always an option that also companies or academic partners outsource manufacturing GMP for commercial distribution. However, this is dependent how well we define our product. And therefore, in the CBA Quality Committee, we would like to share the important vision of the CBA that the private and public banks work together also on quality issues for the development of new products, and also, of course, for qualitative aspects of cord blood banking and transplantation, since also cord blood banking will in the future extremely influence whether we are able to perform regenerative medicine as a broad word. And therefore, we would like to promote both high quality cord blood banking and also high quality for related tissue products and services. So what does the future look like? Where does cord blood fit with other graft sources? And we have other graft sources in the market. We believing and we are convinced that cord blood provides access to excellent donors, to healthy donors. Its cord blood may protect against leukemic relapse, for instance. There could be regenerative medicine and cellular therapies. And there could be an expanding role for manufacturing products from cord blood, because there can be off-the-shelf products or there can be autologous products. and also the tissue surround. And there are current and planned trials in patients at the moment for brain injuries, for stroke, for cerebral palsy, for hypoxic ischemic encephalopathy, diabetes, vascular diseases, pulmonary fibrosis, bronchopulmonary diseases, autism, and many others. However, the success of these trials is depending how well the trial is designed and how good we are in the preclinical setting. So the question is, what are the CBA's next priorities? I think it's increasing awareness of options for banking. Of course, in the States, the reauthorization of the Bill Young program, the legislation for new regulations for therapies, of course, the enhancing global participation, and also the harmonization of international regulations. Since at the moment there are different regulations in the EU and in the States and also in Australia. We will provide, of course, a website enhancement, and the CBA is trying to partnership with journals. And, of course, the CBA will participate in international meetings in order to share the opinions of the members of the CBA with the community. And it is very easy to become a CBA member. It can be a bank, an allogenic or a public or private corporate bank. It can be related industry, individual members. And these applications are online when you go to the CBA website, or you can Google Cord Blood Association. And there's also a possibility out if there's a consortium interested in product development of one item that they can join together as a member. And if you have questions to become a CBA member, you can contact always our very efficient operational Director, Ellen Lehigh. Thank you.
Thank you to our presenters for that excellent presentation. We will now begin the question and answer session. To ask a question, type it in the Q&A box on the right side of your screen. I will read the question aloud, and then the presenters will answer. Our first question is, if you are another nonprofit cell therapy organization, what is the best way to engage with the CBA?
So this is Joanne. Is it okay if I answer that question?
Absolutely.
So we plan to develop a way for other organizations to join with the CBA and to arrange and coordinate members for our mutual, or benefits for our mutual members that would allow people who join both organizations to appreciate the benefits of each at a discounted price. But we need to negotiate that with each individual organization that we partner with. So we are very open to that and would have to consider the specific arrangement on association or organization by organization basis. But I think our major mission here is to unite and cord blood interests and people who are interested in using cord blood and cord tissue in regenerative medicine, and we recognize that this industry will be strongest with everyone working together and partnering with other organizations with like-minded interests.
Thank you. We will wait just a few minutes for some other questions. Again, if you have a question, please use the Q&A box on the right-hand side of your WebEx. Is it possible to join the Quality Committee?
So this is Jeff. I can go ahead and answer that question. It is absolutely possible for members of the CBA to have individuals join any of the committees. In order to do that, please contact us again via our website, or you can email myself or Joanne with your recommendation for the member from your organization and what committees you would like them to be considered for, and we would be happy to move that forward. As Joanne mentioned in the beginning of the call, we are actively building our committees and moving forward those agenda items as we speak, so really now is the time to put forward qualified personnel. We want to be incredibly inclusive and get as many qualified, skilled people on our committees as possible to help us move forward these important items.
Thank you, Jeff. Is the CBA planning on becoming an accreditation agency?
So this is Joanne. I will answer that question. The CBA is not intending to be an accrediting organization. The CBA recognizes that there are very competent accrediting organizations that already are in existence, and it is not our job to take on that role. The CBA is really a trade organization with the intent to advocate for both banks, community members, physicians, and healthcare professionals who are involved in the cord blood transplantation and regenerative medicine field. We, again, intend to strongly partner with the industry that is involved in bringing forth new devices and reagents for this work, and our mission is not accreditation, or any kind of standards setting official organization. However, we do believe that with these emerging new technologies, as Gesine alluded to, that there is a real need to modify existing regulations in various countries to be more specifically addressing manufacturing of cells and cell tissues and related products, and that current regulations are really more aligned to drug therapies and drug development and often don't fit for cells. In a more broad sense, in addition to within each country or each region optimizing these regulations, we are really a global world right now, and there are many barriers to transporting products or using products from one country to another, and we really hope to focus on harmonizing global regulations so that becomes more easy to do, and if that's possible, that's going to increase access to new therapies for patients around the world.
And this is Gesine, and I think in addition we will help some organizations because we try to have people in our committees coming from industries and also from public, but we will try to help also organizations maybe to define certain standards as it was done with FACT or NetGood for the hematopoietic cells and the FACT NetGood standards or other standards. So I think it's more an added on and maybe a start also from the CBA committees to help here in the improvement, but not to be, not to be that standard maker.
Thank you. What areas are covered by the committees?
So this is Jeff. I'll take a shot at that. There's several committees that are in place now and covering multiple topics. So obviously we have a government affairs committee which has primarily been focused on the C.W. Young reauthorization. However, as we move beyond the C.W. Young authorization, the Government Affairs Committee will begin to focus on research and development funding, additional regulatory standards, and hopefully working across borders to establish international regulatory paradigms that are consistent to enable the research to move on a global scale. We are putting those items together and those priorities together as we speak, and actually, for those of you listening now, we are actively recruiting members to the Government Affairs Committee and specifically looking for additional ex-U.S. membership. We also have a Public Education Committee, which is led by Art Flatow, our patient advocate that's on the board. That committee is focused on providing educational materials across all banking options for both providers, frontline providers, and patients. And again, that committee is just getting started. We have a media relations committee that is focused on key messages and consistency of how we want to present ourselves to the media, ensuring that we are speaking with one voice with regards to the state of the industry, the research, the education opportunities, and the needs of the cord blood industry to continue to develop and grow. I might turn it over to Joanne or Gesine if they would like to pick up some of the other committees that we're working on. Those are the few that I can speak to now.
Thanks, Jeff. I was talking to myself on mute, so I didn't realize that I wasn't being heard, so I'm really glad that you took that on. I think that the scientific committee will really start to focus on new technologies, how we can bring existing developing technologies as well as new ideas for new technologies to the forefront. As I think many of you may know, it's one thing to have an idea, and it's another thing to take that idea through the processes that Gesine outlined on her slide, from discovery to upscaling to figuring out and validating manufacturing to bringing that into GMP to getting an IND or other relevant regulatory approvals to take that product into first-in-man phase 1 trials, and then to go to phase 2, and then usually to find an industry partner to take promising therapies into phase 3. Those are hugely expensive, hugely complicated kinds of pathways, and the Scientific Affairs Committee is going to work on defining, what directions are in need of discovery, or what areas are in need of discovery, and then how are we going to figure out a mechanism to take those things forward. I'm personally hopeful that our 501c3 foundation will be able to raise money over the next few years so that we can begin to sponsor some preclinical and clinical research specifically related to the cord blood field and development of products from cord tissue. But that will require everyone's support and buy-in to be able to realize that dream. I also wanted to comment, as a user of autologous cord blood in trials for, right now, brain injury, that it's going to be really important as a community to define what the qualifications and specifications are of tissues and cord blood that have been banked in private and hybrid banks, so that they qualify for use in the clinic. And I think as an organization, with our industry partners and the private and public banks working together, that we should be able to define those specifications really for the global community. And that's another focus of the Scientific Affairs Committee.
Thank you, Joanne and Jeff. Our next question is, what proportion of the international participants, individual and institution, are contributing in CBA? How the international networking are taking place, and is there a substantial representative across the world?
So this is Jeff. I'll take an initial shot at that question. We're quite pleased with the amount of international interest that we've received thus far. We have membership from Canada, Brazil, Mexico, across Europe, Asia, India. So from an institutional point of view, I can't state exactly the proportion, but I would say that our global representation is growing, and I think will continue to grow as we sort of build momentum around that and show that we are not a U.S.-centric organization. We truly want to be global. We feel that the cord blood industry needs to operate on a global scale to be successful. Similarly, in terms of individual memberships, I don't have the exact proportions, but we certainly had a very successful recruiting of individuals during the International Cord Blood Symposium, and we anticipate that we will continue to grow those individual memberships, and probably, if I had to take a guess, I would say we're currently 40 to 50% international membership on an institutional and an individual basis. In terms of setting up opportunities for collaboration and communication on a global scale, I would say the first thing is the committee membership is a nice opportunity to participate and to ensure that various countries' voices are heard as we move through the committee prioritizations and activity lists. And then secondly, I would say we'd like to hear from the membership in terms of what their needs are and what they would like to see in order to further facilitate international collaboration opportunities, whether that be support of international meetings or the Cord Blood Association putting together activities that will bring the international community together. Those are all opportunities that we are open to and would seek our members to provide input and guidance in terms of what they would like to see. But again, in closing, the international membership is strong and growing, and the immediate opportunity to participate is through the committee membership, and we encourage you all to do that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you. I would share it, and I would like to say that we try in committees to recruit already people, and we're happy if we get it from the broad audience. We try already to recruit people from different areas, Europe, Australia, or UK, in order to have a more or less common view on things. And so I think we are all happy if people from different areas of the world can participate.
Thank you, Gesine. Our next question is, in terms of promoting awareness among the general public and frontline healthcare providers, how does the CBA plan to achieve this goal? Are there any specific plans as of now?
Joanne, I can go ahead and take that one.
Okay, that'd be great.
Okay. So again, I would say that those plans are under development at this stage. However, we plan to leverage existing capabilities, for example, those provided by the NMDP and also those provided by the family banking industry. Family banks have developed fairly robust marketing and education capabilities, and what we want to do is work across the industry, public and private, to leverage those existing capabilities to drive broader public awareness campaigns. We would also like to seek out opportunities to partner with other organizations that are focused on maternal health. An obvious one is somebody like the March of Dimes or other public advocacy organizations that are focused on maternal health and education. I think step one is for us to align on the key messages and the appropriateness of the claims and messaging that we want to put in the market for public education campaigns. And then from there, we want to leverage existing capabilities and partner with other maternal health organizations to drive that. There's also a large opportunity in that family banks often have field sales organizations that are calling on hospitals and frontline providers. And we believe that some of that infrastructure can be leveraged to support public banks to drive awareness and understanding amongst the provider community of the importance of cord blood, the importance of equality of collection, the importance of the documentation, and things like that to further support the public banks in being able to expand their collection infrastructure and have frontline providers that understand what the needs are. So we think the opportunities are vast for the public education campaign, and again, we want to pull together a strong committee that can move that agenda forward.
And this is Joanne. I'd like to mention two other things. One of the challenges in public donation is that right now it's not possible for every mother who might want to donate cord blood to a public bank to be able to do so. There are different mechanisms around the country in the USA for public donation, and other countries may have different infrastructure. But in the U.S., you have to either connect with a public bank or be in a hospital that is a donation site. So there are many conversations going on now about trying to conceive of a way to have a broader donation program or to combine education in a fair and balanced way so that moms know they might have the opportunity to publicly donate or they might want to privately store, but that choice would be available no matter where they deliver. I think that with the CDA membership being both private, hybrid, and public banks, that we will come up with a unique mechanism where that may be possible no matter where mom delivers. But it's challenging, and I hope, and there's conversation about creating some sort of a national donation program, at least in the USA. Another thing that has to be considered in these kinds of options is how we educate in a formal way obstetrical providers to collect cord blood to get the highest yields, as Jeff mentioned, and the highest quality units. And we're hoping to be able to partner, particularly through one of our board members, Haywood Brown, with some of the obstetrical educational programs, residency programs, and the like, to educate midwives and residents during their training about cord blood collection, so that the new workforce already has an educational component and won't need to be educated or approved that they're trained on the spot. So those are the kinds of things we hope to approach by interacting with some of the organizations that would control those curricula and those programs.
Thank you, Joanne and Jeff. Our last two questions kind of tie together. Can you further clarify your involvement with the accreditation and standards? And the other question is, will the CBA try to achieve its standardization of standards through the industry, aligning FACT, AABB, NMDP, FDA, etc.?
I think we will not. I can answer this question. I think the quality committee of the CBA will be of great help to some of the organizations in order to try to define, for instance, markers for subpopulations from tissue, in order to try to bring the public and the science together with the private, in order to develop standards, for instance, for the collection of tissue as the cord, for instance. There are methods out which are really not state of the art of today, and there is no scientific proof that they work. And so I think the committees who are really distributed through public and scientific and also private organizations, they will help other organizations. We will not have our own standards, but we will try to give recommendations.
Thank you, Gesine. And that concludes our question and answer period. Thank you again for joining us for the CBA webinar. The recording will be available to all registrants in approximately 1 week, which will be announced via email. We will also be inviting you to provide the CBA feedback so that they can continue to provide helpful and beneficial education. This webinar is now adjourned.